Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Burden here with another build. I'm doing a Healing Tempest build for raiding. This is the build I've been using in my raids, and some explanation is required throughout the build video. So I just want to make sure you guys, before you skip through the video, going to certain sections, there are some things that need to be explained. For example, the runes that I'm wearing aren't necessarily the runes I want to wear, but I'm working on getting the best runes for this build. And there are some variations to the builds. One thing that can be an issue is the toughness. Because if you've been into a raid before, the boss usually focuses on the character with the most toughness. And in this build, sometimes your toughness can be pushing the limit a little bit. And we might have to change up our traits just to make sure that the tank has the highest toughness. So that's something you're going to have to talk to your raid about and see what your tank has and what else you can do. So anyway, this focuses on sharing auras, which before would have seemed a little bit silly, but because of the traits that we get in the Tempest line, there's really good synergy between the water line and the Tempest line now with sharing auras. So we will be healing every time we share an aura with an ally, and we will be spreading boons as well. So anyway, that's the overview of the build. I'm not going to be doing any raid video in this build. I will do a separate video dedicated just to showing off my build in a raid, and maybe do some commentary over the top. I'm not too sure about that yet, but that's what I plan on doing, and then you can see it in action. But I wanted to cover the build in this video. So overview is done. Let's get into our gear. Alrighty, well, this is the gear for the build that I'm using. If you look at our armor, we have Cleric's armor, which is power, toughness, and healing power. And so I am using Superior Rune of Duena, which gives you healing and regeneration duration. When you are struck, you gain regeneration, and then when you use a healing skill, you also apply regeneration. So in this build, with these runes, I get up to over a minute of regen on a lot of people. But the one rune that I'm actually working towards is Rune of the Monk, and instead of having the regen duration, we can have the boon duration, which is a lot better, and we still get the healing. And then if you look at the number 6 set bonus, you get a plus 10% outgoing heal effectiveness to allies, which is quite strong. So that is what I'm working towards. To get Superior Rune of the Monk, you need to farm Ascalonian Catacombs on Explorer mode, and you can use the items that you get there to buy Superior Rune of the Monk from the dungeon vendor. For my staff, I am using Magi. It's kind of required because if you go Clerics on your Magi, or on your staff, sorry, your toughness is going to be way too high. You can already see that I'm pushing the limit at 1700 something. A lot of tanks have like around that, a little more, or maybe 1800 or so. So if I had toughness on my staff, I would just be way over. Actually, mid-raid I had to change because I was pulling aggro from from one of our tanks. And my sigils that I'm using right now are Sigil of Water, so 30% chance on hit. You heal nearby allies around your target. Since we will be hitting the bosses and the tank will be right around the boss, then we will be spreading some heals around towards him. And then the second one is Superior Sigil of Renewal. You heal nearby allies on weapon swap, and weapon swap sigils are usually really good on an elementalist or a tempest in this case, because every time we switch attunements it counts as a weapon swap. Now it does have an inner cooldown of 9 seconds, so it won't heal every single time that we switch our attunements, but every 9 seconds, once that comes off a cooldown, then we will be getting heal every 9 seconds pretty much. For the accessories and the rings, the amulet, I have power, toughness, healing, that's technically Clerics. And then for my rings, I actually have one Celestial ring. I'm thinking about changing, but I'm okay with it right now because it lowers my toughness a little bit. And then one of the rings, I also have a Clerics, power, toughness, healing power. And then for my accessories, I have power, toughness, healing power, Clerics, and power, toughness, healing power, which is another Clerics. One of the things I'm actually a little disappointed in is when you could buy Magi exotic gear, which the stats are way lower, but it gives you precision, vitality, healing power, which I was really looking for because I wanted to drop my toughness and get vitality instead, just so I didn't have to worry about pulling aggro from the tank. But when you look at the ascended accessories, all they have are Clerics. But it's okay because as long as the tank has more toughness than you, then you're fine. And the power, actually, if you've been into the raids before, they really focus on DPS. It's a DPS race, basically. So having the extra power while I'm healing, I can also be throwing down damage on the boss. I won't be throwing down a ton of damage, but, you know, with these boss fights, every single bit of damage counts. So that's the gear. Clerics with Superior Rune of Duina, but you should be using Superior Rune of the Monk, which is what I'm working on right now. And then a Magi Staff with Superior Sigil of Water and Superior Sigil of Renewal. And then we have all clerics gear. My backpack is nothing, just don't look at that. I gotta do something about that one. Alright, let's look at our traits. First of all, we have water, of course, if we're going to be healing. You and nearby allies regenerate health while you are attuned to water. So that's Soothing Mist, which you can see on right now since I'm in water. And then we have Soothing Ice, gain regeneration and Frost Aura when critically hit. Healing Ripple, heal nearby allies when attuning to water, so that's a nice decent heal. If you didn't see, our healing power is up to about 1400, so a lot of these are going to be pushed up quite a bit. So almost a 3k heal just by going into water. And then Cleansing Wave, remove a condition from you and your allies when attuning to water. And healing done to allies is increased by 15%, that's actually quite a bit. And then Powerful Aura, when you apply an aura to yourself, grant that aura to all nearby allies as well. This is basically the bread and butter of our build. There's another trait in the Tempest line which will also be the bread and butter. So you could call this the bread, the other one will be the butter. So those two are our bread and butter traits. Now for Earth, this is where I wanted to explain something with the toughness issue. Earth, the minor trait, which unfortunately it is a minor trait and it is the first one, gain toughness while attuned to Earth. So let's go into our hero panel, and you can see our toughness is at 723. If I go into Earth, my toughness jumps way up. So if your tank doesn't have more toughness than that, it could become a problem. You could start pulling aggro off from the tank, which can be a huge deal, especially on the first boss. So you need to talk to your tank and see how much toughness he has. If they don't have this much toughness, then you need to do something about it. And well, I guess I could talk about it now. Let me go through the Earth traits, and then I'll tell you. I'll actually switch to Arcana, and then talk to you about the traits in there, because you really can't be pulling aggro away from the tank. So, Stoneflesh, gain toughness while attuned to Earth. Then you have protect yourself with Earth armor, and gain protection and stability. This is when you share. This is when. Wait, that's not right. Here it is, Elemental Shielding. I'm not sure why that was chosen. Elemental Shielding, gain protection when applying an aura to yourself or an ally, so that will help with your healing because people around you will be taking less damage. And Earthen Blast, damage foes and cripple them for 3 seconds when attuning to Earth. Rock Solid, grants stability to nearby allies when attuning to Earth. And Geomancer's Defense, you take less damage from foes within close range. And Stoneheart, you cannot be critically hit while attuned to Earth. So really, the only one we want on Earth is the Elemental Shielding, which grants protection to nearby allies. You can do a couple other things if you want to, because really these aren't super beneficial to our team. What you could do is, especially if the toughness is an issue, you can go into Arcane. As long as you feel like your team has enough survivability in the raid that they're not taking too much damage, and that protection won't be a big deal. You can go into Arcane, so Arcane Fury, gain Fury when you switch attunements. And then Renewing Stamina, this is a little more selfish, but really the other choices aren't great. Renewing Stamina, gain Vigor when you deliver a critical hit. Elemental Attunement, when attuning to an element, you and nearby allies gain a boon, so that's really good. And then I like to choose Arcane Resurrection. It increases your revive speed, and when you revive an ally, you share an aura with them, which will also heal them and give them boons as well. So that's I like that better than the other choices in that trait line, or that trait tier. So we have Elemental Enchantment, boon duration is increased, and attunements recharge faster. And then Evasive Arcana, of course. We're gonna get with the Cleansing Wave alone, you'll get a lot more healing out of this build. So I would probably, I guess you would dodge in any attunement, but I would mostly focus on dodging while you're in water, because that Cleansing Wave will cure condies and also do a nice big heal to your allies. So if the toughness is an issue, I would go with the arcane line. If you're not having an issue with toughness, but you're finding that the survivability of maybe your tank or some people around, they're taking too much damage, then you could go into Earth and you can get the when you share auras, you get protection. Okay, so even if you wanted to, you can go air and work out a trait line where you could get Zephyr's boon if you feel like your team is low on damage. So you can apply Fury every time you apply an aura, so your team will do more damage. Really, there's, in this one, the middle one, whether it's air, arcane, or earth, there's a little bit of flexibility depending on what your raid actually needs. I usually stick to earth, but arcane is also one that I like to use as well. Alright, for the Tempest line, we have Singularity. Attain elemental singularity by remaining in an attunement for a period of time. Upon attaining singularity, you may overload the attunement to your vicinity. So that's these attunements, right? Once if we switch an attunement, we have to wait 5 seconds. And then when the 5 seconds is done, we can overload the attunement. And that will do something else, but we'll do that in the skill section, so I don't have to talk about it here. Okay, so we have Unstable Conduit. Overloading an attunement grants an aura based on the element you're attuned to when the ability is completed. So if I was to overload fire, when fire is done, it will give me it'll give me a fire shield, but because I have powerful aura, which shares my aura to my teammates, then they will receive the fire shield as well, which will give them healing and other boons. Then we have Speedy Conduit, gain swiftness when overloading an attunement. Invigorating Torrents, auras you apply also grant regeneration and vigor. Okay, so those are some more boons that we will be giving our teammates as we use our auras. And Hardy Conduit, gain protection while overloading an attunement. Protection has increased effectiveness, so we get minus 40% incoming damage when we are overloading an attunement. And then this one, Elemental Bastion, auras you apply heal allies, apply a frost aura to yourself and nearby allies which struck while below the threshold. Okay, so if we are going low on damage, then we will apply frost aura around to our teammates, which gives them minus 10% incoming damage, but we'll also give them a ton of boons. We're going to be giving them vigor and regen, and we'll also be giving them protection if you're in earth, or fury if you're in air. So it's giving them a lot of, and the healing as well, of course. So this one, Elemental Bastion and Powerful Aura are going to have a ton of synergy along with it. So if you're wondering about the middle trait line, again, just gauge what your group needs. Do you need more protection? Do you need more damage? Or do you need more healing? I think Arcane will give you more healing. The Earth trait line will give you more protection, which will reduce the amount of damage your group is taking. And then the Air trait line will give you just your raid group more damage overall. Okay, so we went over the gear and the traits, so let's go over some of the skills. I'm not going to go over all of them, just the more important ones. I would hope that you know how to play Staff Elementus a little bit, but a lot of these really you don't have to use while you're raiding. As far as fire goes, your Lava Font makes a great fire field that you could put onto the boss. It also does damage to the boss. Like I said, our focus is going to be healing, but because these bosses are DPS races, it's always great to be able to put some of your own DPS on the boss while you're healing. So Lava Font does a great job with that, but it also makes a fire field where people can use that to benefit themselves and stack might and things like that. And that Flame Burst is just a nice little burst to put on some burning onto the boss, which will increase your DPS a little bit. If you have time, you can use your Meteor Shower. Sometimes I'll skip it if I feel like I have to go around doing a bit of healing, if I want to switch to water to do more healing. So if I have time, there's like a little break and not people aren't taking much damage, I'll cast my Meteor Shower down. For our Overload Fire, unleash all flames you've accumulated, searing enemies and strengthening allies. So when we use this, we are going to be spreading burning. And we're going to be pulsing might, so you can see that the might is pulsing up to 10 stacks. Okay, so we'll be spreading that to our allies as well. And if you saw at the end of it, well, we get swiftness and protection as well, but if you saw at the end of it, I gave myself a fire shield, and that since we spread our auras, I'm healing myself and healing everyone around me when I apply an aura to them. So that's Overload Fire. I like to do this. I like to do this in the middle of the DPS group to spread fire to them, and then also give them the fire shields, and give them all the boons and the healing as well. For our water, we have our Water Blast. This is what I usually spam on the boss, because that will heal everybody around him. And remember, we have the sigil, what's it called? No, I forget. The sigil of water. So when we, 30% chance on hit, when we're hitting the boss, that we're going to cast another heal around the boss. So your number 1's going to do a lot of healing, just auto-attacking the boss. Your number 3 is your Geyser. This is a really big heal to put onto your tank when they're in position, almost 4,000 healing. And it also puts down a water field, which people can also use to their benefit to use blast finishers and do extra healing. And then our number 5, our Healing Rain. Call down a Healing Rain on the target area, granting regeneration to allies and curing conditions once every 3 seconds. So condition removal, which isn't necessarily a big deal, especially for the first boss that I've experienced, but it does do a really nice amount of regen healing, and again, a water field that people can use to benefit themselves. Our water, Overload Water, create a surge of accumulated water magic, healing and cleansing allies. When the cast ends, heal the area and apply regeneration. Using this skill causes the attunement to have a longer recharge. Okay, so when we use it, we're going to be casting healing. And then you can see we have regen, swiftness, and protection as well. And it removes conditions. And then we also apply the Frost Aura at the end, which is going to heal our allies. So tons of healing through these overloads, as you can see, especially with the water one. That's a ton of healing. If we go into Air Attunement, not too much that I use from Air Attunement really. I try to stay out of Air Attunement pretty much the whole time. There's a little bit of CC if you need it for the knockback bars. But that's about it in Air. And then Earth Attunement. One of the great things to Earth Attunement is that we have a magnetic aura on our weapon. So if we use that, we will be spreading magnetic aura, which reflects projectiles, and we will be healing our allies as well. And then if we look at Overload Earth, ride your stored Earth magic around, granting protection to other allies you move over and crippling enemies. Then deliver a final immobilizing blast of power to the area, leaving behind a dust cyclone that delivers the same effects as the Overload. Wow, that was... I probably shouldn't have read that. That was actually a lot to read. But you can see as it ends, we get the magnetic aura. We also get the protection, swiftness, and extra protection. And we get, you can see the protection we have here. Yeah, look at that. Alright, we got up to about 18 seconds of protection. And then we get the magnetic aura to heal our allies. So that is our staff. Those are our staff abilities. Remember, the overloads give a lot of healing, but remember that it does take a little while to cast it, so that could be an issue sometimes. Stay in water a lot. You're going to be throwing your number 1 onto the boss, just auto-attacking, because that's going to be spreading healing throughout your group that's near the boss. And then your Geyser, your number 3, and then your Healing Rain, your number 5, are going to be your big healing skills. And then the Fire Attunement. Your Lava Font you can throw down so people can use the Fire Field to do blast finishers, to give themselves more might and just do more damage. So for our utilities, we're pretty much using all shouts. We have Wash the Pain Away, Mist, Billow out of the player, healing allies that are in range, so we get a nice amount of healing around to our targets. Then we have Feel the Burn, which spreads damage and burning, and then also gives us a fire shield. So every time we use that, we're going to be healing our allies around us. Then we have Eye of the Storm. Imbue your voice with element of air, massively increasing speed and breaking stun for nearby allies. This also gives super speed. So super speed is actually really good, especially on the first boss if you're doing green circles, or you just need to get people to move around the map a little bit more, then you can use your super speed. And I use that all the time just for the super speed in my raid. And then Flash Freeze. Unleash a torrent of ice on enemy locations, chilling those who cannot escape. Grant Frost Aura to allies in range. So we'll be applying Frost Aura, which will be healing us and our allies, and we will be chilling people around us as well. And then Rebound. Shout and infuse your allies with arcane energy. Allies who would take lethal damage, while this is active, ignore the death blow and are healed instead. If the effect expires naturally, grant an aura based on your current attunement. So there's a couple of ways you could use this. You can use this just for the aura, because this is going to last a few seconds. As it ends, depending on what attunement we're in, we are going to gain an aura, which will just be more healing. Or you might want to save it a little bit for if you feel like some of your group is going down. Really, I would gauge, again, it's all about gauging what people you're with, what your raid group looks like. If you want to save it, if you feel there are some people that are dying too much, then you can save it to try to save them, or you can just use it for that extra healing if you feel. I usually just use it for the healing because the raid groups I've been in, I felt like I didn't have to use it just to save people. So it's just a few choices. One of the things I wanted to mention, one of the variables of the skills, is if your team is lacking a little bit of CC, you could always take the Frostbow, because you could drop the Frostbow down, and then you can use your number 5, which is a hard CC, onto the target, and that will help break the bar as well. So that's a variable you could take. And again, it's all back to the point of what your raid groups needs. Then you can adjust what you're bringing to the raid group as far as your trait lines and your skills and all that. So I hope I explained everything well to you guys. This is I've been having a ton of success with this build. Actually, I was in a group just the other night. We got the first boss to about 2%, and they were telling me that they had to kick like 3 of their healers before they got me, because the other healers were doing so bad. But I got compliments all across the board, and I actually ended up having to leave because an internet problem. And my friend was telling me, as they kept raiding, all they kept talking about is how they wish they had me back. Now, I don't think that was mostly me. I think that was mostly the build. So if you're looking to heal in raids, really try this build out. Remember, your auras are giving heals off. Just practice with it a little bit. It's not too bad to use. So it does help if you know how to use an elementalist already, but using the auras and the heals is pretty simple, I think. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will be recording some of the raids later, as long as I get to heal in them. I was having a problem with shadow play earlier the past few weeks, where my video card wasn't letting me use shadow play, so I had to end up there's a driver update that I had to download, and it let me start using shadow play again. So I know I've been really wanting to get this build out to you guys, because I've been really enjoying it. So I hope you guys learned a lot. If you have any questions about the builds, make sure you put it below, and I will answer it to the best of my ability. Thanks for watching, guys.